dive from FoReel Talk, where we dig through a mountain of research so you don't have to.
I'm Paige Turner.
I'm Chris Clarity, and this week,
we're taking on a topic
biosecurity.
that is equal parts fascinating and kind of terrifying.
A little bit.
Biosecurity, basically, how do we keep the really scary stuff out of the wrong hands?
Like super viruses, weaponized bacteria.
Things you don't want just anybody to have access to.
Exactly. And our sources this week paint a pretty grim picture.
Yeah.
Everything from
really do.
DIY bioweapons to straight-up bioespionage is at play here.
So let's start with the Biological Weapons Convention.
Okay.
Or BWC for short.
Yeah.
This sounds like it should be,
Right.
our global defense against bio-nightmares, right?
You would think so, yeah. Back in 1972, 184 countries signed this treaty banning bioweapons.
Sounds good so far.
But here's the thing, Chris, it lacks any real teeth.
Wait, so no international biopolice?
Swooping in to shut down rogue labs.
Not really.
What's the point then?
Well, the BWC relies almost entirely on voluntary compliance.
Okay.
And shockingly, only about 23% of countries
Wow.
even bother to report back on whether they're following the rules.
That's less than a quarter.
It is. Imagine like a school honor system where practically everybody is cheating.
So someone could be like cooking up a bioweapon in their basement.
It's possible.
And the BWC would be totally clueless.
It's not quite that simple, but the treaty is really focused on countries.
Okay.
And it completely ignores the rising threat of individuals. Biohackers, terrorist groups, you name it.
Like a guy next door, maybe?
Potentially. And to make matters worse, advancements in synthetic biology are happening so fast that the BWC is basically
can't keep up.
Struggling to keep up. It's totally outpaced.
It's like it's trying to catch a bullet train with a bicycle.
Exactly. So it's this treaty that's supposed to be our shield.
Right.
But it's basically full of holes.
Yeah, full of holes, rusty.
Greasy, old, and
not doing a good job.
Not effective, right?
And a perfect example of that is when Russia was accused in 2022 of having a secret biolab in Ukraine.
Right.
Potentially violating the DWC. What happened there?
Well, they just dismissed it, called it fake news.
Yeah, they just shrugged it off.
Because there's no real way to enforce investigations.
There's no way to prove it.
Exactly.
So even with this treaty, anyone with bad intentions and a little know-how
pretty much
is basically free to do whatever they want.
The U.S. does have the select agent rules, which restrict access to about 67 super dangerous pathogens.
Okay, so that sounds like a step in the right direction at least.
It is. It's
67. So we're talking like anthrax,
smallpox, things like that.
Ebola, all the scary stuff.
Exactly.
But there's always a but.
There's always a but. These rules, they regulate the actual pathogens, but they don't account for synthetic DNA.
Oh, right, because you can basically just order that online now.
You can. It's like ordering takeout.
Is it really that easy?
A 2021 Harvard study actually showed how easy it is to exploit this loophole.
So what do?
They were able to order custom DNA fragments and rebuild horsepox.
Horsepox?
Which is a relative of smallpox.
Well, not great.
Yeah, and over half of the orders were shipped without any issues.
Wait, they basically ordered the ingredients for a deadly virus online and nobody even blinked.
It's concerning.
That is terrifying. How is that even possible?
Well, the cost of synthesizing a virus has plummeted.
Okay.
What cost $40 million back in 2003 is now around $100,000.
So it's basically a bargain now.
It's becoming much more accessible, which is a huge concern.
So we're not just talking about nation states anymore.
Right.
We're talking about individuals with enough resources could potentially get their hands on this tech.
And then there's CRISPR.
CRISPR, okay.
This gene editing tool.
Yeah. This is the thing they used to make, like the glowing beer, right?
Yes. It can be used for fun stuff like that.
Seems harmless enough.
But scientists are also using it for more serious things, like gene drives.
Gene drives?
Which could potentially eradicate malaria-carrying mosquitoes.
That sounds amazing, though, right? Wiping out malaria.
It could save so many lives.
Where's the danger there?
The same tech could be used to weaponize those mosquitoes.
Oh.
Spreading a deadly disease instead.
So instead of getting rid of malaria, you're giving them malaria or something worse.
Potentially.
The scariest part.
CRISPR, especially for human or pathogen editing, has almost zero regulations.
So you're telling me anyone can order a CRISPR kit online?
Pretty much. You can get DIY CRISPR kits online for under $200.
No questions asked.
It's the Wild West out there.
I'm starting to get a really bad feeling about this.
I understand.
Like, this is how zombie movies start, right?
It's a valid concern, and it's not just about what people can directly order. We also have to consider the unintentional role of tech giants.
Wait, you mean the platforms we use every day?
Exactly.
For cat videos and online shopping?
Those ones
could be contributing to biosecurity threats.
It's complicated, but some of them might be unintentionally aiding these threats.
Okay, so how exactly are tech giants fueling this potential bio-nightmare?
Well, let's focus on 3.
Okay.
YouTube, Amazon, and Telegram.
YouTube, Amazon, Telegram. Okay, so YouTube first. How does a platform for cat videos and makeup tutorials become a breeding ground for biothreats?
Well, YouTube has had issues with its algorithm,
which
tends to promote DIY biohacking videos.
DIY biohacking videos.
Even ones with titles like, edit your DNA in 10 easy steps.
Oh, that sounds like something I would click on.
Right? They're very enticing. And despite guidelines against harmful content, these videos can stay up for weeks.
Because nobody's really monitoring them.
Because YouTube relies heavily on users to report them.
So it's a constant game of whack-a-mole.
Exactly. Take one dangerous video down and 2 more pop up.
What about Amazon? I mean, it's the everything store. You can buy anything on there, but lab equipment.
Until recently, you could buy all sorts of lab equipment on Amazon.
No way.
No oversight, no checks.
So you're saying Amazon was basically offering a bioweapon starter kit?
Not that blatant.
Maybe with free Prime shipping.
But there were some serious issues. A Wired investigation actually found that extremist groups in the U.S. were buying equipment to try and cultivate anthrax.
Oh, that's disturbing.
And because there was no oversight, this equipment was often shipped to P.O. boxes or abandoned warehouses.
Untraceable.
Impossible to track.
That is really disturbing. So we've got YouTube, Amazon. What about Telegram?
Telegram, with its encryption and privacy, has become a hub for sharing information about
so it's kind of a
risky biohacking projects.
Digital underground.
We're talking blueprints for recreating the 1918 Spanish flu. Or engineering bacteria that are resistant to even our strongest antibiotics.
So they're basically swapping recipes for potential disasters.
It's a very complex landscape.
Yeah.
But before we spiral into complete panic, let's switch gears and look at the more organized side of this equation.
Okay, so we're moving from, like, the lone wolf biohackers to something more structured.
To the nation states and corporations involved in bioespionage.
So like spies and secret agents, but instead of stealing microfilms, they're after biological secrets.
Think James Bond, but instead of gadgets, they're after the next superbug.
Okay, so less shaken martinis, more bioweapons.
Maybe not as glamorous, but the stakes are just as high.
Give me an example. Who are the players in this bioespionage game?
Take North Korea, for instance.
North Korea, always a good time.
Intelligence agencies have long suspected them of pursuing bioweapons. And a 2023 UN Security Council report actually confirmed those suspicions.
So what are they up to?
They have a secret unit.
Of course they do.
Called Unit 525.
Unit 525.
Patchy. Operating under their General Bureau of Reconnaissance.
Okay.
And this unit has shifted its focus from traditional weapons.
So they're not messing around with noose anymore?
Not as much. They're into something called hybrid cyber-biological warfare.
Cyber-biological warfare. Okay, that sounds like something out of a William Gibson novel.
It does a bit, right.
What does that even mean?
They're combining cyber espionage with biological research.
So hacking and bioweapons, a delightful combination.
For example, in 2022, Unit 525 hackers broke into the servers of a South Korean biotech firm.
A South Korean biotech firm, that's bold.
It is. It was called Seoul Biosolutions.
Seoul Biosolutions. And what did they get?
They stole a massive amount of data, about 1.2 terabytes.
1.2 terabytes, that's a lot of data.
It's a lot of data, and it included information on CRISPR-Cas9 delivery systems.
CRISPR, there it is again.
And techniques for dispersing pathogens through aerosols.
So not just creating them, but also spreading them.
Exactly. It was basically a blueprint for developing and deploying a bioweapon.
That is a seriously scary thought. But with all the sanctions against North Korea, how are they even getting the materials and equipment?
Well, they're using front companies in countries like Singapore and Malaysia.
Clever.
To buy the necessary equipment under the guise of medical research.
Of course, medical research. So centrifuges, DNA synthesizers,
the essential.
bioreactors, the whole shebang.
For a sophisticated bioweapons program.
It's like they're building a bioweapon IKEA.
In a way, yeah.
And nobody's the wiser.
Yeah.
But it gets even more complicated.
Oh.
Because leaked FBI cables revealed that Unit 525 was also collaborating with Russian hackers.
Interesting.
They were trading stolen biotech data for cryptocurrency mining software.
So we have rogue nations working with cyber criminals
to develop bioweapons. This is like a nightmare scenario.
It is.
Unfolding in real time.
What are the experts saying about all of this?
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like it's straight out of like a Tom Clancy thriller.
There's significant concern.
Yeah.
Experts warn that North Korea could potentially engineer pathogens that are resistant to our current vaccines.
Oh, grief.
Or even design them to target specific ethnic groups.
Weaponizing pathogens to target specific groups. That's a chilling thought.
It is, but it's a real possibility.
So how long until this sci-fi nightmare becomes a reality?
Well, a 2024 report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies estimated that North Korea could potentially weaponize an anthrax-resistant strain of Bacillus subtilis within 18 months.
18 months? That's not a lot of time.
Using the stolen data.
So biosecurity is not just about preventing natural outbreaks. But also about preventing deliberate attacks.
Exactly.
We've talked about North Korea. What about non-state actors like terrorist groups? Are they a threat in this arena?
Absolutely. ISIS, even though they've lost much of their territory,
remains a biosecurity threat because of their decentralized network and their interest in biojihad.
Biojihad. What is biojihad?
Essentially, their attempt to use biological weapons to further their ideology and cause terror.
So it's like a twisted form of bioterrorism.
In a way.
Is there any evidence that they're actually pursuing this?
We see it in their online activities.
Online.
Back in 2021, ISIS operatives used an encrypted platform called Rocket Chat to recruit biologists with expertise in Bacillus anthracis.
Bacillus anthracis, that's the bacteria that causes anthrax.
Exactly.
So they were basically posting job ads for bioweapons experts.
They were using coded language like, brothers skilled in purifying Allah's earth are needed.
How?
Experience with spore stabilization required.
So they were recruiting on like the dark web.
Pretty much.
Were they successful? Did anyone answer those twisted calls?
It's hard to say for sure. But a 2022 raid on an ISIS hideout in Mosul, Iraq, gave us a glimpse into their capabilities. What did they find?
Kurdish forces found a makeshift lab with crude bioreactors.
Bioreactors?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound good.
They also found modified pressure cookers for culturing anthrax spores.
Pressure cookers. That's terrifyingly DIY.
And stolen equipment, including a portable DNA sequencer.
So they weren't just messing around.
No.
They were actively trying to develop and weaponize anthrax.
It was a stark reminder that ISIS and other terrorist groups are actively seeking to develop bioweapons.
And what's scary is they don't need a state-of-the-art facility to do it. A former CIA operative even said they don't need a state to wage biowar. A garage lab and a disgruntled PhD student could be enough.
It's a chilling thought.
And that really highlights the fact that this threat could emerge from anywhere.
And it's not just about terrorist groups. We also need to consider the threat of corporate espionage.
Oh, yeah, corporate espionage in the biotech sector, where the profit motive comes into play. So it's like industrial espionage, but instead of stealing blueprints, they're stealing the secrets to life itself.
Precisely. A prime example is the gene heist scandal that rocked the biotech world back in 2022.
Gene heist, that sounds dramatic.
It was. A cyber attack on Moderna's headquarters in Boston exposed a massive biotech espionage ring.
So this is serious stuff.
One of their top bioengineers, a Dr. Ethan Cole, was caught stealing proprietary mRNA sequences for their next-generation COVID-19 booster.
Oh, wow. So he stole the formulas for potentially life-saving vaccines.
And their cancer vaccines as well.
How much could someone even get for that kind of information?
He received $4.2 million.
$4.2 million.
In Bitcoin, of course.
From a shadowy buyer.
I bet they did.
Who was later connected to a Chinese firm.
A Chinese firm. So basically, state-sponsored corporate espionage.
It seems that way.
What happened to Dr. Cole?
He was eventually arrested, but the damage was done?
Right, because the information was already out there. The stolen data enabled the Chinese company to file patents.
Wow, so they profited from his theft.
For a novel mRNA delivery system.
So they basically just copied Moderna's work.
That mirrored Moderna's stolen intellectual property.
That's outrageous. Did it get any worse?
It did, actually. Court documents revealed that Cole also tried to sell additional sequences.
He was busy.
On a dark web marketplace called BioBazaar.
BioBazaar, of course, there's a dark web marketplace for bioweapons.
That's where he was caught.
So not only did he betray his company and potentially put global health at risk, but he also tried to profit from it on the dark web.
It was a new level of audacity.
And he's not alone, right?
Not at all. A 2023 Europol report actually identified 47 similar cases of biotech IP theft since 2020.
So this is a trend.
With China, Russia, and Iran being the main beneficiaries.
It sounds like we're at a global bioarms race.
It does feel that way.
Where everyone's trying to get ahead, regardless of the consequences.
The stakes are incredibly high.
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
And even companies known for their ethical practices aren't immune, right?
Take CRISPR Therapeutics, for instance.
CRISPR Therapeutics?
A company working on groundbreaking gene therapies for diseases like sickle cell anemia.
Okay, so they're doing good work.
They are, but in 2023, a disgruntled employee leaked their gene editing protocols.
On the dark web, I presume?
To a buyer on the dark web.
For how much?
$750,000.
$750,000 is all it takes?
Apparently so.
What exactly did he leak?
Everything, including data on the potential off-target effects of their CRISPR edits.
Off-target effects?
Which showed a risk of causing leukemia.
Wow.
He also leaked the genetic profiles of their trial participants.
So he stole valuable intellectual property.
He did.
And endangered people's lives.
And what was the fallout?
Yeah, what happened?
It was huge. CRISPR Therapeutics had to delay their FDA approval process by 18 months.
18 months, it's a significant setback.
To get back their research and delaying potentially life-saving treatment for countless people.
This whole situation is mind-boggling.
It is.
It seems like biosecurity is a massive problem with no easy answers.
It's incredibly complex.
Outdated treaties, unregulated technologies, nations playing dirty, corporations engaging in espionage.
It's a lot.
And biohackers potentially brewing up dangerous concoctions in their garages.
It's overwhelming.
It's enough to make anyone want to build a bunker and stock up on supplies.
I understand the feeling, Chris. It is a lot to process.
Yeah.
But before we succumb to complete panic,
please,
let's remember that people are working tirelessly to address these threats.
Really? Because right now it feels like we're teetering on the edge of a bioapocalypse.
It might feel that way, but there are glimmers of hope. In the NIP segment, we'll explore some of the potential solutions being developed and implemented, from technological safeguards to policy overhauls to grassroots efforts promoting responsible biohacking.
So there's still hope.
Don't lose hope just yet. There's still time to avert disaster.
Okay, good.
But it's going to require a concerted global effort.
A global effort. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of The Deep Dive.
Stay tuned.
We'll be back after a short break to discuss the solutions and, hopefully, Paige, give us some reasons to be optimistic about the future.
There are reasons.
All right, stick around. This is The Deep Dive from FoReel Talk.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Before the break, we were knee-deep in the murky world of biosecurity threats.
Yeah, things were getting a little apocalyptic there.
But as promised, we're not going to leave you stranded.
Thank goodness.
In a sea of existential dread.
I appreciate that.
Let's talk solutions.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Do we need to assemble, like, a global team of biosecurity superheroes?
I love that idea, Chris. Caped crusaders battling biovillains.
Right.
But the solutions are likely to be a bit more complex.
Okay.
Need a mix of technological safeguards, policy changes, and a healthy dose of grassroots accountability.
All right, so let's start with technology.
Yeah.
What kind of tech-based defenses are on the horizon? Are we talking like AI-powered biosentinels that can sniff out dangerous pathogens?
Not quite that futuristic, at least not yet.
Right.
But one promising area is DNA synthesis screening.
DNA synthesis screening. Okay, remind me what that is again.
Remember how Twist Bioscience shipped those horsepox DNA fragments without any hesitation?
Oh yeah, the horsepox incident. Not a good look.
Well, companies like that have started implementing screening protocols to flag orders for potentially dangerous sequences.
So it's like a digital bouncer at the door of the DNA synthesis club, checking IDs and turning away anyone who looks suspicious.
Exactly. They're using something called the IHGSC threat list.
IHGSC.
It's a database of over over 4,500 high-risk pathogen sequences.
So all the baddies, smallpox, Ebola.
All the ones you don't want out there.
And if a customer orders a sequence that matches that list,
red flags go up and the order is blocked.
That sounds like a good start. But I imagine there are ways to get around that, right? I mean, if someone's really determined to create a bioweapon, they're probably not going to order the sequence straight from a textbook.
You're right. It's not foolproof. The screening relies on known sequences.
Right.
Meaning new lab-created pathogens could easily slip through.
So what's the solution there?
That's why there's a push to develop more advanced AI-powered tools.
AI, of course.
These tools can analyze not just the sequence, but also the buyer's behavior.
So AI to profile potential bio-bad guys.
Exactly.
What kind of behavioral red flags are we talking about? Someone ordering a year's supply of Petri dishes and scheduling late-night lab rat deliveries.
Maybe not that dramatic.
Okay.
But things like using an untraceable email address.
Makes sense.
Paying with cryptocurrency.
The classic signs of shady business.
Or making bulk purchases of unusual materials could all raise red flags.
So they're looking for patterns
right.
that might indicate something nefarious is going on.
Exactly. Interpol is actually working with companies like Ginkgo Bioworks.
Go Biowork.
To develop an AI tool called BioGuard.
BioGuard. I like it.
Which can analyze these patterns and predict risky orders.
BioGuard. Sounds like it's ready to protect us from biothreats.
I hope so.
But even with these screening tools, how do we actually track the physical materials and equipment?
That's a good point.
Once they leave the lab, what's to stop someone from ordering a bunch of seemingly innocent lab supply
right.
and then using them to cook up something dangerous in their basement?
That's where blockchain technology comes in.
Blockchain, the technology that was supposed to revolutionize everything.
It's finding its niche here.
But how can blockchain help with biosecurity?
Remember how we talked about blockchain being used to track diamonds and manage supply chains?
Oh, right. Because it's a secure and transparent ledger?
Exactly. Well, startups are now using it to track biological materials and lab equipment.
So every centrifuge and DNA synthesizer gets its own digital passport.
Exactly, making it almost impossible for them to just disappear.
No more shady backroom deals.
It creates a digital chain of custody,
right.
making it much harder to move this stuff around undetected.
And if someone tries to mess with the records,
the blockchain would expose them.
Because any attempt to alter the records is immediately obvious.
Exactly. That's the beauty of blockchain. It's immutability.
I love it. We're using cutting-edge technology to fight a cutting-edge threat.
It's the way to go.
But let's be real. Technology alone can't solve this.
You're right.
We need some serious policy changes as well.
Absolutely. Technology is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
We need stronger international agreements, updated regulation, and better enforcement mechanisms.
So the current system is just not up to the task.
It's not. The advancements are happening so rapidly that the policies are struggling to keep pace.
So are policymakers finally waking up to this threat? What are they doing about it?
There has been some progress.
Okay, good.
But it's slow.
Bureaucracy, am I right?
One ambitious proposal is for a global biosecurity treaty.
A global biosecurity treaty. That sounds like a big deal.
It is. It's being led by the EU.
Okay.
And it aims to modernize the Biological Weapons Convention.
Oh, right. The BWC. The one that's basically a paper tiger?
That's the one.
So how do they plan to give it some teeth?
They're proposing mandatory licensing for gene editing tools.
Okay.
Universal lab security standards.
So everyone's on the same page.
And robust cyber biosecurity protocols.
So like making sure labs can't be hacked.
Exactly.
Imagine every lab working with dangerous pathogens.
Right.
Having to follow strict safety guidelines like biometric access controls.
Right.
Real-time surveillance feeds to UN inspectors.
Keeping an eye on things.
Air-gapped systems to prevent hacking. It sounds like something out of a spy movie.
A little bit.
But this is a good thing, right?
It is.
More security is better.
It's about making sure these powerful tools don't fall into the wrong hands.
So is this just a fantasy or is this actually happening?
It's not a fantasy. Germany implemented similar measures in 2023 under their Biosicherheit 2030 initiative.
Biosicherheit 2030, that sounds very German.
And they saw a significant drop in illicit biotech sales within a year.
That's encouraging. But what about countries that aren't as proactive? How do we get everyone on board with these kinds of changes?
That's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, getting everyone to agree on something.
There's resistance, especially from countries like the U.S. and China.
Right, big player.
Who have concerns about trade secrets and national sovereignty.
I can see their point, but this is kind of a global issue.
It is, and there's a growing movement to amend the existing BWC.
Amending the BWC, that sounds like a monumental task.
It is a big undertaking.
What are the key changes they're considering?
Some key proposals include expanding the treaty to cover non-state actors.
So not just countries, but also individuals and organizations.
Exactly. Adding a specific annex to regulate synthetic biology.
Bringing it up to date.
And granting the UN more power to enforce the rules.
So giving the BWC more teeth, expanding its scope,
yeah,
and making it relevant to the age of synthetic biology.
It's a lot, but it's essential.
It's a tall order, but yeah, absolutely essential. But even with the best treaties and regulations, we can't forget the human factor.
You're absolutely right.
We need people on the ground who are willing to speak up when they see something wrong.
We need whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers.
Ethical biohackers.
Right.
And a culture of accountability within the scientific community.
So it's not just about top-down solutions from governments and organizations.
Right.
We also need bottom-up pressure from scientists and the public.
We need people on the front lines who are willing to raise the alarm.
Exactly. That's why initiatives like the BioWatch initiative are so important.
The BioWatch initiative, tell me more about that.
What is that?
It was launched in 2021.
Okay.
By a former FBI agent, Lena Carter.
Okay, former FBI, so she knows her stuff.
It's an encrypted platform where lab workers can anonymously report security lapses or suspicious activity.
So like a digital tip line for biosecurity.
Exactly.
I love that. Has it been successful?
It's been surprisingly effective.
Right.
They've exposed over 40 cases.
40 cases? That's impressive.
Including one involving a Ukrainian lab.
A Ukrainian lab?
Selling plague samples on Telegram.
Plague samples on Telegram. People are wild.
It's out there.
That's incredible. But it must take a lot of courage to blow the whistle, even anonymously.
It does, and unfortunately, there are challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Fear of retaliation is a huge concern.
Right, losing your job. Maybe worse.
And only a small percentage of reports lead to prosecution.
So it's not perfect.
It's not, but the platform is growing.
Okay.
And as more people use it, the more effective it'll become.
Safety in numbers, right?
Exactly.
It's inspiring to see people taking action.
It is.
And holding each other accountable.
It shows that we all have a role to play.
But it can't just be about reporting the bad guys, right?
You're right.
We also need to encourage and support ethical biohacking.
Absolutely. Not all biohackers are aspiring supervillains.
Right.
Plotting to unleash a plague.
Thankfully not.
There's a vibrant community of ethical biohackers out there.
Okay.
Doing incredible work, pushing scientific boundaries responsibly.
I'm all for empowering the good guys. What kind of efforts are we talking about?
One example is the Safe Gene certification.
Safe Gene certification, what is that?
It's a label that DIY biohacking collectives can earn by adhering to a set of strict safety and ethical guidelines.
So it's like an organic certification for biohacking labs.
In a way, yeah.
What kind of guidelines do they have to follow?
Things like a no pathogen pledge.
No pathogens, so no messing with the dangerous stuff.
Exactly.
What else?
A commitment to open source oversight.
So complete transparency.
Which involves streaming their lab feeds to Safe Gene monitors.
For everyone can see what they're up to.
It's about building trust and ensuring that everyone's playing by the rules.
This is starting to sound a lot more hopeful.
It's not all doom and gloom.
But are there any countries out there that are truly leading the way in implementing these solutions?
There are some bright spots.
Okay, tell me about the bright spots.
Norway, for example, has taken a very proactive approach to biosecurity.
Norway, the land of fjords, Vikings, and cutting-edge biosecurity.
You got it.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about their approach.
In 2022, they passed a comprehensive Biosecurity Act, incorporating many of the solutions we've been discussing.
So they're really taking this seriously.
They are. The Act covers everything from DNA synthesis screening to ethics review boards for biohackers.
So they're not just letting anyone biohack in their garage.
Right. And they also have government-funded community labs.
Government-funded community labs?
Where people can pursue their DIY biology projects safely and legally.
So they're not trying to squash innovation. They're just channeling it in a safe and responsible direction.
Exactly. And it's been incredibly effective.
What kind of results have they seen?
Since they implemented these measures, they've had 0 illicit biotech incidents.
0. That's amazing.
And what's even better is they've seen a surge in citizen science projects.
So people are still innovating, but safely.
Exactly.
Give me an example. What kind of citizen science projects are happening in Norway?
Well, there's been a crowdsourced breakthrough in algae biofuel production.
Algae biofuel, that's pretty cool.
It's a win for both science and security.
It really shows that we don't have to choose between innovation and safety.
We can have both.
Yeah, both. So, Paige, what have we learned today? What's the takeaway message for our listeners?
Well, the biosecurity landscape is complex, constantly changing, and sometimes pretty scary.
Yeah, no sugarcoating there.
But it's not a hopeless situation.
Okay, good.
There are brilliant people all over the world working hard to develop solutions.
Okay, so there is hope.
From cutting-edge technologies to innovative policies to grassroots movements championing ethical biohacking.
And we, the everyday citizens, have a crucial role to play as well, right?
Absolutely.
We can stay informed, demand accountability, and support responsible innovation.
If we all do our part, we can hopefully steer humanity away from the brink of a biodisaster and towards a brighter, more secure future.
So, Paige, after this deep dive into the dark side of biosecurity, are we all doomed? Should we be stocking up on hazmat suits and building underground bunkers?
Let's not hit the panic button just yet, Chris. While the threats are serious and we need to acknowledge them, we're not helpless. The first step is awareness.
Okay, so no need to start prepping for a bioapocalypse just yet. But what can regular people actually do to make a difference? It's not like we can all become biosecurity experts overnight.
You absolutely don't need a PhD in virology to make a difference, Chris. There are simple yet impactful actions we can all take to contribute to a safer biofuture.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay on me, Paige. What can we do?
First and foremost, stay informed. Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, and follow reputable sources on social media. The more you understand the threats and the potential solutions, the better equipped you'll be to advocate for change.
Knowledge is power. Got it. What else?
Support responsible science and innovation. That means being aware of the ethical implications of these new technologies and demanding transparency from researchers and companies.
So if your neighbor suddenly starts wearing a hazmat suit and ordering a bunch of CRISPR kits online, maybe ask a few questions.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. If something seems risky or unethical, don't hesitate to speak up. Remember those biohackers who leaked those CRISPR protocols and plague samples?
Oh yeah, not our favorite people.
They were caught because someone had the courage to blow the whistle.
Whistleblowers. The unsung heroes of the biosecurity world.
They truly are. And finally, support policies that promote biosecurity and responsible innovation. Contact your elected officials, sign petitions, and make your voice heard.
So basically, we need to channel our inner biosecurity activists.
Exactly. Make some noise, demand change, and hold those in power accountable.
I like it. We've got a lot of work to do, but it sounds like there's hope.
There is. Chris, biosecurity isn't just about preventing catastrophic events. It's about ensuring that biotechnology is used for good, not for harm. We need to work towards a future where we can all benefit from the incredible potential of these technologies without living in fear of their misuse.
Well said, Paige. So to wrap things up, it's safe to say that the biosecurity landscape is complex, constantly evolving, and yeah, a bit scary at times.
It's true, but it's not a hopeless situation.
Okay, good.
There are brilliant minds all over the world working hard to develop solutions.
And we can all do our part.
Exactly. By staying informed, demanding accountability, and supporting responsible innovation, we can collectively create a safer and brighter biofuture.
That's a future worth striving for. So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of biosecurity. We're glad you came along for the ride.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Deep Dive for more fascinating explorations into the world of science, technology, and the future. And be sure to leave us a comment below with your thoughts on this episode. What are your biggest concerns about biosecurity? What solutions give you the most hope? We want to hear from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay safe.